phrase structure basically, right? So what we'll try and understand what phrases mean to you. Okay, you can tell me what you understand by phrases. Okay, and what kind of phrases did you understand? The lecture could have discussed a few phrases with you. Please talk to me about what those phrases are, and how do you identify them? Okay. Yeah, anybody?
It's like a part of a sentence which helps in building the sentence.
How do you differentiate between a phrase and a clause?
Clauses can be used independently, whereas phrases are dependent.
Yes, correct. So that is one identification, that clauses, they could be used independently. However, phrases may not have an independent existence of its own, usually appears as a segment or a part in the sentence, right? And if you look at the elements itself that make up a phrase and then try and contrast it with the clause, you know that every clause is going to definitely have a subject and a verb, whereas that's not the case with phrase, right? Phrases do not have subject and verb. They are a collection of words. They're a group of words, but again, by group of words, we do not mean a random combination of words, right? So there is a certain order and certain certain method in which these words come together to form a certain phrase. So in English, you have several kinds of phrases, right? You might have heard about the noun phrase. You also have something called the adjective phrase. You have prepositional phrase. There are also adverb phrases and other things, but the major three that we discuss as we talk about phrases in English are the noun phrases, the adjective phrases, and the prepositional phrases. Okay. So if you have this basic understanding and what happens in each of them, so in a noun phrase, the noun is the head of the phrase, right? So that is the major constituent element in any noun phrase, right? So noun is going to be the major phrase. Whereas in an adjective phrase, it's going to be the adjective. Adjective is going to be the head of that phrase. It is the main constituent element of that phrase. It is the main constituent element that makes up that phrase. Similarly, for the prepositional phrase, the head constituent is going to be a preposition. A very simple concept this is. So you have like a list of them as your first question is to identify the type of phrase in the ones that you see on the screen, on the question, in the questions that you see on the screen, right? So we are going to identify the types based on this classification: noun, adjective, and preposition. Okay, so just a quick, simple activity, just to know if you can make this differentiation. Okay, because this is very, very basic. When you talk about sentence construction, a lot of the segments that go into the construction of the sentence are talked about in on the basis of the phrases. Okay, so you don't say noun and verb and other things. Usually what you refer to them usually in modern grammar as phrases: noun phrase, adjective phrase, verb phrase, adverb phrase, right? Prepositional phrase. That is how it should be approached. Like, you know, in the first classes, we said that you do not say vowels and consonants. You should be using more. Now when you talk about them, you should be more, you should be in the habit of using vowel sounds or consonant sounds, because it is essentially sounds that we are discussing about and not the letters. Okay. Similarly, in this case, it is not the words as nouns and verbs that matter to us, but it is the verb phrase or the noun phrase or the adjective phrase that becomes the basic constituent element of the sentence in English. Okay. So let's look at those examples that you have on screen. I'll ask you about just identify the type of phrase that you see there. Okay, just an activity to know if you're able to do that identification. So the first one, yellow bottle. Yellow bottle. This is an adjective phrase. Okay, so this is an adjective phrase. Does everyone here understand? Right? Okay. So you have yellow, which is the adjective, and then you have bottle, which is the noun. Now, since there is an adjective already in the phrase, okay, you will have to treat this as an adjective phrase. If you just had bottle, for example, okay, only bottle was the question, then it is going to be a noun phrase. This is a question that we get often, that can single words be considered as phrases? Yes, in modern grammar, we consider even if you just have like one word, especially in the case of noun phrases, if you just have bottle, or if you just have car, like in the next question, right? So if only that particular word exists without any adjective and the determiner or anything, even then that is referred to as a noun phrase. Okay. Uh, Another question that comes up is about he, she, it, and all that. All of them are going to be regarded as noun phrase, since you do not have something called the pronoun phrase, right? It's not like a very, we do not see many books, any authentic books talking about them. So he, she, it, all of them are then considered a part of the noun phrase. Okay. If you have questions based on it, then please go ahead and mark them as noun phrases. So single noun words can also be treated as noun phrases, and he, she, it, all of them can also be treated as noun phrases. Okay. So the first one, yellow bottle, with the presence of an adjective, definitely is an adjective phrase. The second one, the new car. The new car.
Adjective phrase.
So this is, you need to tread with a little caution here. So the new car, okay, it does not say new car. You have an article, or what is referred to as a determiner, attached to this particular phrase. Okay. And if you have a phrase which has a determiner, okay, which begins with a determiner, then you need to mark them as noun phrase, okay, not adjective phrase, because the head of this phrase is not adjective, right? Linguistics also talks about determiner phrase, but that is not a part of your syllabus, so we do not intend to discuss that with you. So just keep in mind, if the phrase comes off with a determiner in it, then you have to mark, which means if it uses any sort of determiner like all or some or new or a or an or the, then the answer to that question, if somebody asks you what kind of a phrase this is, the answer to that question is a noun phrase. Okay, how to identify adjective, adverb, preposition, and pronoun? Oh, this is a very basic thing. Adjective is anything that describes or modifies a noun, right? Any word that goes and which is used to modify the noun. Okay, and it can be anything with respect to size, shape, color, okay, time, anything, age, okay. Any sort of words that helps you add information to the noun, um, give you modifications to the noun, is an adjective. Similarly, anything that helps you modify a verb, okay, which tells you about the degree in which the verb has happened, okay, to the range in which it has happened, the manner in which it has happened, the time and the place where it has happened, right, expresses the point of view of the action that has taken place. All of them, all of those words that help you do this with the verb are referred to as adverbs. So they modify verbs. Prepositions, they show you relations of time, place, direction, etc. In a sentence, right? And pronouns, they are words that you use instead of nouns, right? So if you have a sentence like John goes to college every day, and the second sentence, you have to suppose you have to talk about how he goes to the college, then instead of saying John goes to college every day, John takes a bus to the college, you can say John goes to college every day, he takes or he drives a cycle, he drives to his college every day, right? So instead of John, you use the word he. If it is if it's someone, if it's a woman, if it's a girl, then you use she, right? Inanimate objects, you use it. So these are basic things you can look up on the lexical categories of the word. So these are pronouns basically used instead of nouns. Okay. Om Sharma. You need
Yeah. Ma'am, I have disconnected because of network issue. Can
So-
you just explain it I have a disconnected when you are explaining like adverb and a
Okay, then I'll
preposition.
come back to you at the end of the discussion then,
Okay,
because
okay,
otherwise I
no
wouldn't
problem.
have time to finish up what I wanted.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Right.
Thank you.
So anyway, so those of you have heard, I hope you've understood. I'll come back to you Om, at the end of the session. So these things, these questions about how do I identify, please read a basic grammar book, okay? That should help you identifying what these things are. They're not very difficult. All you have to do is just look at them a little carefully. Keep the basic definitions in mind. Just keep in mind that adjectives and adverbs are basically for modifications. One modifies the verb, the other the noun. Okay. Rest are all things which helps you connect different segments in a sentence. But please read a very basic grammar book, so that will give you like a better understanding of this. Right. So we were discussing about the phrase. Okay. How do you identify phrases? So whenever you have a determiner in a phrase, right, please mark them as noun phrase. So the determiner could be the, a, and, all, some, few, okay, many, anything that, which means it could either be a qualifier or a quantifier. Quantifier is something that specifies, it tells you about the quantity of the thing being talked about. And qualifier is something that talks about other things, like the one that we just discussed, okay? Singular, plural, specific, non-specific. But in any case, if you have a determiner in a phrase, then certainly you will have to mark it as a noun phrase, okay? If it comes without a determiner, like in the first one, yellow bottle, right? In that case, it is an adjective phrase, but the head of that phrase is adjective. You don't have anything else there, right? That is what becomes the modifying factor there. It is the constituent that is the head of that phrase. So this is an adjective phrase. But with a determiner, definitely that becomes sort of the head shifts to that of a noun. So you will definitely mark it as a noun phrase. Okay. Some people also refer to it as a determiner phrase, but for our course, we're not going to dive deep into that particular aspect. So we are going to treat all the phrases with the determiner as noun phrase. Okay. All right. Now the third one, is that understood for the person?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
I understand.
Someone, Avinash or somebody, I don't remember who, you have answered it as adjective, but do you understand why this is not adjective? Okay. Fine. Now the third one, teacher, I think we just discussed about it. Teacher, what sort of phrase? Sorry? Noun phrase. Yes, correct. Noun phrase. Right. So even single words that are nouns are also treated as noun phrases. So teacher is a noun phrase. Fourth one, in the evening.
Preposition phrase.
This is a prepositional phrase. In, you have the preposition in, which is the head of that phrase, and then this is a prepositional phrase. Next one, big mountain. Big mountain. Adjective. Yes, adjective. Correct. So this is an adjective phrase. From Chicago. From Chicago.
Preposition.
Preposition. Yes, prepositional phrase. From is your preposition. That's the head, and it's a prepositional phrase. The blue chip.
Noun phrase.
Noun phrase. Okay. The blue chip. Noun phrase. At the theater.
Preposition.
Preposition phrase. Yes, at the theater. Preposition phrase. Tomorrow.
Adverb phrase.
Adverb phrase. Tomorrow is adverb phrase. Okay, talks about time. It is adverb phrase. Last one. Over the roof. Prepositional phrase. Okay, so you understand, this is clear. How do you differentiate between?
Ma'am, just explain that tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
When I question is here, when I talk about time, this belongs to the adverb or noun? Here,
no, time is always adverb. It's not, I mean, these kind of expressions, if you have a specific, if you're naming anything, so keep this in mind. When you have to call something a noun, it should be the name that is given to something, right? Tomorrow is not a name. It is an indication of time, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is why this is an adverb, right? So today, tomorrow, before, after, yesterday, all of them are treated as adverbs.
Okay.
Just an example.
Year, like year, next year, previous year. It belongs to the.
No, next year is a adjective phrase. You have next as the adjective and year as your noun. So it's a modifier. This is an adjective phrase. Okay?
Only year.
Only year is what? It's noun, right?
Okay. Okay. That means
Can you
it's,
count tomorrow? See, look at this. If something has to be noun, it has to be countable. There are several aspects to it, right? It should be a name. It should be countable. Can you count years?
Yeah.
You can. Can you count tomorrow?
No.
No, right? So one of it is clearly an indication of a time, right? A particular state, right? And the other one is something that you can count, like days and months and dates, years, everything. These are countable. Anything that is countable has to be a noun. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. So that is the first one. Second one, quickly. This is also.
Ma'am, what is the answer of 7th? The blue chip.
That's a noun phrase.
Okay, ma'am. Is that the adjective as well? The cheap blue is the adjective
No.
of the
If
cheap.
it is the blue chip, then it is noun phrase. If it was only blue chip, then it's an adjective phrase.
Okay, ma'am. Got it.
Now, identify the subject in the following sentences. These are again easy ones, but you will see a couple of things that you should know of the subject, that you should understand when one talks about the concept of subject. Okay, so let's look at them. The first one, savannas have warm temperature year around. What's the subject?
Savannah.
Savannas.
Savannah.
This is no prize for guessing here. It is savannas. Savannas have warm temperature year around. So in this sentence, grammatically, savannas become the subject of the sentence. But if you look at it, it is not performing any action there, right? It's not an agent. The subject here is not an agent. It's basically a topic of the sentence, right? So the sentence is about savannas. And savannas have warm temperature year around is your sentence. So grammatically, the subject here is savannas, okay, which is used as a topic, semantically used as a topic in the sentence. Now, second one, in Africa, the monsoon rains begin in May. In Africa, the monsoon rains. Sorry?
In Africa.
The monsoon.
The monsoon rains.
The monsoon rains, right? So in Africa, the monsoon rains begin in May. Your subject is the monsoon rains, right? Do not go ahead and mark in Africa just because. So the point here is that subject is not decided based on where it appears in a sentence. Everything that appears in the beginning of the sentence needn't be the subject, okay? Needn't necessarily be the subject all the time. A few of us at least have the tendency to look at the beginnings of the sentences as a subject, but that needn't be the case. Look at the sentence carefully, like in the sentence in Africa, it is just an introductory phrase, right? So I can put it at the end of the sentence too. This is like an adjunct in the sentence, okay? Have you guys done complements and adjuncts? No, right? That is for English too, I think. Did you have a topic in adjunct and complement?
No.
No.
No, right? Okay, so fine. So let's forget about that. So in Africa is basically an introductory phrase, okay? And what I can do, I can shift it around in the sentence. So I can also say the monsoon rains begin in May in Africa. Okay, even then the sentence is correct, right? Or I can remove it altogether and say the monsoon rains begin in May. Still the sentence is grammatically all right. It might look to a few people like it is lacking some form of information, but that is okay. Grammatically, however, the sentence the monsoon rains begin in May sounds perfectly all right, right? So which means that particular phrase in Africa is not something that is necessary to the existence, the grammatical existence of that sentence. Adjunct is not a part of your syllabus this time, but you definitely have it in the next year. So just a teaser to that. Adjuncts are these kind of phrases, okay, which are not essential. They are optional elements in a sentence. You can take them out of the sentence and still retain the grammatical structure perfectly. Okay, so in Africa is one such structure. Okay, so this then definitely cannot be your subject. The subject in your sentence is the monsoon rains. Okay, all right. Now third one, go there, go there.
You.
Right? Again, you don't have the subject here in the sentence, but there's an implied subject. The implied subject is you. Right? You. Now the fourth one, there is also a savanna in North Australia. There is also a savanna in North Australia. Grammatical subject. Grammatical subject.
There.
There. Okay. Why did I say grammatical subject? Because if you read that sentence, you would see that the word there has actually no meaning in there. It is not doing any, it's not adding semantically. It's not adding meaning wise anything to that sentence. Okay. All it is doing is it is fulfilling the place of the subject, because in English, you cannot have a sentence without a subject. Okay. That's like a very basic rule in English, that no English sentences can have or can exist without a subject. Even though it is not shown on the surface level, like in the example 3, sorry, not example, the sentence 3 go there, it still definitely has a slot for it, right? So if I want, I can still write you go there and the meaning would still be the same. So what it means is that there is always a space for a conceptual subject. There's a slot always there for the subject in every English sentence, right? So, but you cannot omit that. Okay, sometimes for the, over a period of time, if the subject has been decided to be dropped in certain kind of sentences, like in the imperative sentence in sentence 3, it does not mean that it has ceased to exist altogether. You can still fill it up. So because of this, this is a very strong rule in English, that there should be a subject. And to fulfill that criteria, to fulfill that rule, the word there is used as a, what you refer to as a dummy subject, okay, dummy or empty subject, in order to fulfill that space. Why empty or dummy? Because it does not add anything to the sentence. It simply sits there to fill in that space. The actual topic or the actual subject, the conceptual subject of that sentence would be still savanna. Okay. But there is what you call as grammatical subject. All right. Get this difference? Understood now? Any doubt? Yes, no? Nobody around?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Fine.
Yes, explain again.
So this is why. So why did you wait for me to ask you this question if you hadn't understood? There in the sentence is a subject, but it is a grammatical subject. Okay. If you read the question, the sentence carefully, you know that there does not mean anything in that sentence, right? There is also savanna in North Australia. This there is different from your adjective there. Okay. The demonstrative adjective there, which shows direction or which shows the position. This is not that. This is a word that is used as an empty subject so that we can fulfill the rule of having a subject in all English sentence. Okay, that is what my point was. Understood?
Yes.
Okay. Now, fifth one, the diversity of animals is great here.
The diversity of animals.
Oh, the diversity of animals, right? The whole chunk is your subject. The diversity of animals is great here. Okay. So the diversity of animals is your subject. Now, my friend and I visited this place last summer.
My friend.
My friends and I.
My friend and I, right? So this is a compound subject. Example of compound subject. You have my friend and I visited this place last summer. My friend and I is your subject. Okay. So this is just to give you a quick understanding of how different kinds of subject, what are the different kinds of subjects that you have in English. Okay, so they are not always just one single entity. Sometimes they can come to you as a phrase. It can come to you as a clause. It can also come to you as compound subjects, like in the last case, or sometimes you don't have the subject at all at the surface level, like in the imperative sentence. And the other type is where you have sentences that begin with words like there, it, etc., where they behave like dummy subjects, okay, that they do not contribute to the meaning, or they do not actually have any meaning of their own, but they just sit there in the sentence to fulfill the role of a subject. Okay. Now we reach out to the last one, which is the agreement, subject verb agreement. Okay, subject verb agreement, you would know what is the basic rule in subject verb agreement. I mean, that's the only rule. There is no more rules there.
Singular, singular for singular noun, singular verb,
Yes.
or
Which is,
plural noun, plural
rule
verb.
is the subject of the sentence, or say the verb of the sentence must agree with the subject of the sentence, right? And that agreement can take place. There are mostly three markers, right? Which is the person, number, and the gender. In English, you don't use gender because gender does not become a criteria for deciding what changes happen on the verb, which means the verb in English does not inflect for gender, right? It does not show any change with respect to the gender. Whereas it inflects or it modifies itself for person and number, right? These two things can happen in English, but not the gender. There are languages which inflect for gender too, like Hindi, right? The verb shows changes on itself, gets inflected depending on what the gender of the subject is. But that phenomena doesn't happen in English. However, based on person and number, this change definitely happens. Okay, so it's a basic rule that you need to keep in mind. That's all. Agreement is basically the verb inflecting based on the person or number of the subject in the sentence in English. Okay. Now we'll solve a few questions and it should be clearer to you. So look at this. The first one, Millie and her brothers
Or
are at school.
are
Why are?
because her brother is full
Millie
of
and brother, both plural.
brothers
Sorry?
Millie
is
and
plural.
her brothers.
Yeah, so
It's
this
a
is
plural.
case of a compound subject, right? So you have Millie and her brothers both together. You're talking about both of those people together, which is why you have a compound subject. And whenever you have a compound subject, the verb has to definitely be plural. It has to agree with the subject. It needs to take the plural form. So Millie and her brothers are at school, not is at school. Okay. Either my mother or my father are coming to the is, right? Either or construction usually takes the singular form of the verb, right? So either my mother or my father is coming to the meeting, right? This is not the case of, remember, either or constructions are not a case of compounding, okay? Compounding only happens with and. Only if your subjects are joined with the help of and can you treat them as compound subjects. But either or, definitely, if you have them in the sentence, the verb has to be singular. Okay, they are not compounded. You're making a choice between this or that in the case of either or. Okay. Now, third one, the dog or the cats are outside.
Is.
are
Is.
Are
Why are?
Because cats are
cats are outside.
Cats are plural. Okay, so if the question was the dog or the cat, okay, then you would have written the dog or the cat is outside. Okay, or even if it was the dogs or the cat, even then the answer would have been is. But here the one closer to the verb is plural, right? Cats, right? Which is why this is going to be are. Understood that?
Yes.
So the dogs or the cat is outside. The dog or the cat is outside, but the dog or the cats are outside. Okay, that was my point. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you repeat?
Okay. What do you want me to repeat?
Dogs or cats outside means I don't.
No, we're talking about the grammar part here. So what I'm saying is, whenever you have this or construction with you, whichever noun is closer to the, you look at the number of the noun that is closer to the verb. In this case, the noun closer to the verb is cats, right? The cats.
Cats,
That
yes.
is plural. So you're going to use so your verb
Yes.
has to agree with that. That is the nearest one to it. And so it is going to agree with the cats, which is plural. Hence, you're going to use are instead of is. Okay, plural form of verb. Get it?
That I understood. You're saying that outside. That is, I didn't understand.
I did not understand your question. I mean, I did
Because-
not understand what you did not understand.
You said said that cats, dog, or cats are outside. Outside means I didn't know.
The meaning of the word outside?
No,
Then
you have said that dogs or cats are outside. Outside
Huh.
means I didn't know what is that. That's why I asked.
I'm very sorry. I'm failing to
Not
understand
outside.
what exactly your question
Okay,
is.
okay.
Okay.
I think he
I
is
was just
asking
giving
the
a
meaning.
distinction. I was saying the dog or the cats are outside. Okay, that is the right one. But in case it was the dogs, then you would say the
Yes.
dogs or the cat. Okay, in case cat is singular here, then you would say the dogs or the cat is outside. Okay.
Okay.
The only point I was trying to make is that the verb that is, the verb takes the number of the noun that is closer to it. So if the noun is plural, then the verb becomes plural. If it is singular, then that also becomes singular. Okay, it takes the nearest noun to it. Since this is a case where you have two, that's all.
Okay, sir.
This
Okay, got it.
thing also work with and.
Sorry,
This
louder.
thing you told that which where the subject is closer to the verb is considered. So this thing also work with and.
No, in the case of and, your subject is already plural because it's a compound subject. Okay.
Okay.
So like the first sentence, Millie and her brothers. So you have Millie and her brothers. They are put together. They are compounded. So anything that is compounded is plural, right? So in that case, the verb has to be plural. There is no place for guessing that. Okay, this is only for constructions like either or. Okay, wherein there are spaces for selection between two, right? So in that case, what happens? The noun that is closer, the number of the noun that is closer to the verb is what the verb agrees with. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Fourth one, either my shoes or your coat. Okay, either my shoes or your coat. Which is the noun that is closer to the verb?
Your coat.
Coat, right? Coat is the one. And is that singular or plural?
Singular.
Singular, right? So your verb is also going to be singular. Either my shoes or your coat is always on the floor. Okay, not are. George and Tamara. Okay, George and Tamara don't want to see that movie. Don't, right? George and Tamara don't, because see, you have and, so you have compounded subject. It's already plural, so you're going to use the plural form don't. George and Tamara don't want to see that movie. Okay. Benito don't know the answer. Doesn't, right? Singular subject, so doesn't. Benito doesn't know the answer. Seventh one of my sisters going on a trip to France. Is, right? One of my sisters, like among the several sisters I have, one of them is going on a trip to France. Correct. Now, eighth one, the man with all the birds lives on my street. The man with all the birds lives. Okay, the singular form for this one would be lives. Singular form of the verb is lives. Why? The subject is only man here. Okay, the only one that the verb has to agree with is the subject here is the man. With all the birds is not a part of that. Okay, so you can't compound it along with the man. The man is the subject here, and hence the verb agrees with the man, which is singular. So your verb is also singular. The man lives, man with all the birds lives on my street. So keep this in mind in when you're looking at the sentence. Do not get carried away by what interferes between your verb and your subject. The verb only agrees with the number and the person of the subject. It does not care about what comes in between them. If the subject is singular, verb remains singular. If the subject is plural, then the verb is plural. This is the only subject-verb agreement rule. So whatever comes in between, whatever interferes is not, it does not count to decide the agreement. Okay. You have several other examples like that. Let's look at some of them. The movie, including all the previews, takes about 2 hours to watch.
Takes.
takes, right? The same example here, including all the previews, whatever phrase or clause that interferes, that does not change the person or number of the subject. Movie is singular, hence the verb form also has to be singular. So the movie, including all the previews, takes about 2 hours to watch. 10th, same kind of example. Okay, this might be familiar to you, might have seen these questions. The players as well as the captain wants to win.
Want.
Want. Here it is want. Why? Because
Players are plural.
players plural. It is plural. The players as well as the captain want to win. Okay. 11th one. Either answer is or acceptable. Is. Either answer is acceptable, not are acceptable. Right. So again, this is a case where you're making a choice between this or that. Okay. One of them. So if you're talking about one of them, definitely it has to be singular. So either answer is acceptable. Every one of those books is our fiction.
Is
Are fiction.
Why are?
is
Why
Because
is?
books.
every one of the books.
One at a time, guys.
One of the books. That's why is the answer.
Kalyani, and then rest of you, those of you giving me answer as is or are, you can give me the answer. First, Kalyani, go first.
Ma'am, I want is the answer because in the sentence they told every one of those books. So they are talking about one of the books. One of
They're
the
not
books.
talking about one of the those books. They are talking about every book there, but individually, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're talking about individual books. Okay, so every one of those books means the reference is still to individual books in the collection, right? So which is why we are going to use the verb is going to remain singular. You're right. Okay, people who have told me are, guys, every one of those books. Okay, the reference is to individual books, which is why this is the case of a singular subject, right? So correct answer to this is every one of those books is fiction, not our fiction. Okay, we are not referring to the whole of the books in the collection, but referring to individual books in the collection, right? Which is why you'll have to use is. Nobody, next one, 13. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen.
Knows.
Nobody knows the trouble that I've seen. Usually with all these, words like everybody, everyone, nobody, no one, anyone, anything, usually the verbs are all singular with them. Each one of, okay, either of, right? All of them are going to use singular verbs. I have like the last exercise is entirely on that. So you'll see, you'll observe for yourself that the verb is always singular. Okay, in this case. But let's complete the exercise. 14th one is, are the news on at 5 or 6?
Is.
Right? Is the news?
Are the news?
There, I'm sorry.
Are the news?
Are the news? No, the news is always treated as a singular noun. Okay, it is singular in nature. News is not plural. Okay, so things like news, civics, mathematics. The next question is basically that: mathematics, civics, physics. Okay, they look like, they are plural, but they are not. They're actually singular nouns. Okay, so if the news,
what is the plural form of news?
News. It does not have a plural form. News is news. It only has singular form. That's what. All these mathematics, civics, they only have their singular form. They exist in singular forms. They don't have plural forms. Okay.
Okay.
So is the news at 5 or 6? The 15th one, mathematics. Is our John's favorite subject? Is, right? Again, all of them are treated as singular nouns. So mathematics is John's favorite subject, while civics is Andrea's favorite subject. Okay. 16th one, $8 are the price of a movie these days.
Is the price.
Is. So when you're referring to specific amount of money, then you use the singular form. $8 is the price of a movie these days. But if you're just saying dollars, then that would be treated as plural, Okay, specific amount of money is always treated as a singular entity. So $8, $5, 5 rupees, okay, 50 rupees, all of, if you have those expressions with specific amount of money, then that is treated as singular. Okay, whereas if you only have dollars, rupees, etc., okay, then you use the plural form. Okay, keep this in mind. 17th one is, are the tweezers in this drawer?
Is.
Are. Okay, are the tweezers in this drawer? Now, so similarly, so you saw that news, mathematics, civics and all, they only have singular forms, right? Similarly, there are certain other forms of nouns like, you know, tweezers, jeans, scissors, etc. They have only plural form. Okay, so that is, there is two part to these things. Okay, they have another part to them. So like you say pair of scissors, right? So there is something that's there together with it. It does not have a independent existence. So this tweezers, jeans, trousers, scissors, all of them, they are treated as plural nouns. So you would always ask the question, are the tweezers in this drawer? Okay.
Ma'am, what about shoes?
What? Sorry.
Shoes are also considered as pairs.
Boots.
Shoes.
BOOTS, right?
Shoes.
Shoes. Yeah. Or see, anything that comes as a pair will be treated as a plural noun. Okay. All right. I don't know who asked the question. Yeah. Answer to your question is yes.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. 18. Okay. Your pants, again, same thing. Your pants are at the cleaners. Are. Your pants are at the cleaners. 19th one. There were 15 candies in that bag.
There were.
You only have to look at the 15 candies, which is plural. You know, we just discussed in the previous exercise that there is actually not a great participant in the sentence. It's just fulfilling the role of the subject, right? So there were 15 candies in that bag. Now there are only one left.
There is only one left.
There is only one left because we're talking about the one candy. Now, 20th one, the committee debate these questions carefully. Debates, right? Committee is treated as a singular noun, a fictive noun. So committee debates these questions carefully. But look at the 21st one, the committee members lead, right? The committee members lead very different lives in private. Okay. So 22nd one, again, this is like the 9th and the 10th one. The Prime Minister, together with his wife, greet the press cordially. Greets, right? The subject of the sentence is Prime Minister, which is singular, and hence the verb remains singular. So the Prime Minister greets the press cordially. Together with his wife, greets the press cordially. All of the CDs, even the scratched one, are in this case. Are, right? We are here, the subject is plural. You're saying all of the CDs. So that is definitely plural. So your verb has to also be plural in nature, right? So the point here is that whatever comes in between the subject and the verb does not account for the agreement. The verb will only agree with the number and the person of the subject. Okay, the last one here. This is the exercise in those everyone, everybody, nobody sort of words. Okay, so look at this. Where did everyone goes this afternoon? Go. Where did everyone go this afternoon? Okay. Sometimes it feels like everyone on social media are having more fun than us. Everyone on social media is having more fun than us. Okay. Can you believe that everyone of her car tires are flat today? Can you believe that every one of her car tires are flat today? Is, okay, is. Can you believe that every one of her car, so reference is individual, right? Every one of her car tires is flat today. We're talking about all of them, yet we are making reference to individual tires, which is why is. Each and every one, oh, there's an off missing there. One of the stars in the sky has emitted light for millions of years. Has. Okay. Has. Each and every one of the stars in the sky has emitted light for millions of years. Every one of my Google searches mention how everyone is or are obsessed with the new actor.
Mentions
Mention.
everyone is.
Every one of my Google searches mentions how
Everyone
everyone
is.
is obsessed with the new actor. This term is in there. Okay, I'll make that change. But the sixth one,
Everybody knows.
everybody knows know the truth.
No.
Everybody knows the truth. Okay, everybody knows the truth. Seventh one, at night with the lights shining on the water, everything looks different.
Looks different.
Looks different. Okay, no matter, you can add as many phrases to it as you want, but that does not change. These words will definitely only take the singular form. So everything looks different. Now, eighth one, I couldn't get a seat. Everywhere were so crowded.
Was so crowded.
Was. Everywhere was so crowded. Okay. Ninth one, she knows everybody in the room. This is a very simple one.
Knows.
Knows.
She knows.
She knows everybody in the room. Okay. 10th one, his name was Henry, but everyone calls him Harry.
Calls.
Calls him Harry. Okay, everyone calls him Harry. Not everyone calls him Harry. Okay, so get this point. For all of these, each one of, either of, everyone, everybody, nobody, everything, everywhere, they're definitely going to take singular verb forms with them. Because remember, although it looks like you're talking about a group of them, we are talking about a group of it, a lot of things at a time. But then we are talking about individual members of those. Okay, whatever they are, whether stars or lights or people or Google searches or car tires, whatever it is, we definitely are going to, we definitely look at them as individual parts. Okay, where the reference is made to the individual parts, although we're talking about the whole of it together. Right, so keep that in mind. So only singular verbs go along with that. Okay, all right. So is the subject verb agreement and that part clear to you? Okay, this should be enough for you to solve any questions on the agreement. Okay. Okay, so then we are done for today. Any other doubts you wanted to ask? Is Om still around or has he left?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Om, you're still here. So rest of you, if you have any questions from the agreement or the phrases or subject part, you can talk about it. Otherwise, you're free to leave for today's class. We're done for today's session.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll meet you next week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Priyan.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In a lecture, there are given some phrases.
Huh.
So do you? That phrases I need to remember.
What phrases are you referring to, Ajay?
Lecture, there are given approximately 40 phrases are given.
Huh.
So
you
those
don't have
phrases.
to remember all of them. So see, as long as you're able to identify them as noun or adjective or adverb phrases, then you're good to go. Those must have been given there to show you, to give you more examples of it. Okay. So remembering doesn't help. So you should know the concept.
Got it. Okay, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, just understand how to differentiate between these phrases and you're good to go. You really definitely don't have to remember all of them.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks.
Right. So Om, I think you had a question about parts of speech, right? You were asking how to identify adverb, adjective, etc.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So see, one thing that you can do is take any basic paragraph, okay, and try and identifying these things. Just make different columns at the end and write down under each of them what nouns are, what verbs are, what adverbs are, just to begin with. These are something that you can do on your own. But if you because you told me that you were disconnected at the time I was speaking.
Yes.
I will just quickly go over it. This is not going to be like a this is how I understand things. Okay, so this is not going to match with the definitions that you would find in grammar books because
No.
they're not very helpful.
Basically, I want to just understand it, how to
Right.
identify.
Correct.
After that, I will do whatever you
Sure.
say.
So see, if you're talking about adjectives, what do adjectives do? The basic function of the adjectives in any language is to modify the nouns, okay, or the pronouns sometimes. So if I take an example from what we've discussed today, phrases like yellow bottle, big mountain, what do? So the adjectives in these phrases are, in yellow bottle, it's yellow, right?
Yellow, yeah.
It's a color, and it is
Yeah.
modifying the noun bottle. So it is adding it is describing, it is giving you additional information about the noun bottle, right? What kind of bottle? Yellow bottle, a bottle that is yellow in color, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
big mountain, what kind of mountain? Describes the
Big.
mountain, a big mountain, a mountain
Big
that is big in size. So
Yeah.
look at this. So the first example was of color. The description was based on color. The second description was based on size. So similarly, you can have other things. The description can be based on time, sorry, not time, age, okay? Or it can be based on shape. It can be based on the material, like say steel plate, right? So steel is material here, right? Or young boy, right? Young is about the age. So there are several categories of adjectives like this, but whatever those categories are, size, shape, strength, material, color, whatever they are, their primary purpose is to modify a noun. It gives you some additional information. It describes the noun that you have at hand, right? This is how you're going to, or you can have numeral adjective, like say 10 years. Okay, if I say 10 years, 10 is a numeral, right? And it is adding to, it is talking about the noun years. It's modifying that in terms of its numeral, right? So anything, actually, there are many categories for adjectives, but how do you identify one? They are going to certainly modify your, they give you additional information about the noun. The same kind of function is performed by adverbs, right? But what do? They modify the verbs. They add information to the verbs. They talk about how the manner in which the action has taken place. So these are called the adverbs of manner. Or it talks about the time and place of the action. That's adverbs of time and place. It tells you about the frequency with which the verb has happened. Okay, so that is the adverbs of frequency, like always, seldom, never, ever. They are all examples of that. Additionally, you also have something called the point of view adverbs, right, which talks to you about the attitude of the attitude in which the action has taken place, right? So then again, their function is also to modify the verb, give you additional details about the way the verb has executed itself, right? So these are adverbs. Pronouns. What are pronouns? Pronouns are words that you use instead of nouns. This is like the classic definition that you have for pronouns, right? So instead of the example I was giving was John goes to college, and if you want to add more to it, if you want to also say how John goes to college, then instead of saying John goes to college, John drives to the college, you can say John goes to college every day, he drives to his college, right? So you replaced John with he, and that is your pronoun, right? So that is the function of a pronoun, to act to act in place of nouns. And depending on whether your noun is a masculine gender or a feminine gender, you have he or she, etc. used, right? So that is how pronouns function. They act in place of nouns. Prepositions, again, what is their function? It is to show relations between various segments in the sentence with respect to their place, their time, their direction, etc. So the book is on the table, right? On indicates the position of the book, right?
That means how to identify the mostly preposition, like this thing.
How to identify preposition? Oh, you have a list of them actually. Go through them. On, in, at. Okay, but basic function is to show you. Basic function is to show you the relationship between two elements in a sentence. Ideally, two nouns in a sentence, or a noun or a pronoun in a sentence. Okay. Right. So read some basic grammar books. They will give you a quick introduction of the types of prepositions and adjectives and other things in English. So you can read a description of that and it should be helpful. But in terms of understanding and their functions, this is what the one that I've told you should be enough. Okay, I have given you the functional meaning of all of these words, but the details, how many of them are there, or what are their categories, all of these details you can read up in any basic grammar book. Okay.
One question regarding preposition. It's a fixed set or it's depend on the situation how to connect the two sentence or the two noun? Depends on it?
No, it definitely depends on the situation. If you want to talk about the connection with respect to place, then it will use a certain set of preposition. If you have to show the connection with respect to the relation with respect to position, it will have a different set of preposition. Sometimes there can be overlap between both, but more often than not, you will have a set of them used for different purposes. So to show, say, position, place, for time, it will have a different set of them. To show direction, it will have a different set of them.
Okay. That means
so
it's
those differences or those sets you can actually look up for whichever book you're reading, or if you're using the internet sources, that will also definitely give you a category for all.
Okay. And one more thing regarding the we use for like the Ganga, the Himalaya. Can I use with the name?
When you use, sorry, not
like determinant. The is a determinant. We can use mostly with like Himalayas, Ganga, any famous thing. Can I use with like normal person name, like the leader, the O? Can I use it wherever it's means मैं किसी particular चीज के लिए the का use कर सकता है या general भी use कर सकता है बस?
So see, the use of articles is it's a little that you can know how to use them. That's but it takes some time for you to get used to them. The most confusing among all of them would be the definite article the. Okay, because it has like a set of places where you should be using them and you should not be, because it has specific meanings. With a or an, it is easier for us to decide. Three things basically. You can say if you have something that is countable in nature, okay, which can be divided into singular, plural, then usually with all the singular counts, anything that is singular, you can use a and an, right? Like a pen, a table, an apple. So they are countable and they are singular. So you can use a or an, and when you have the word begin with a vowel sound. Okay, so this is a basic thing. Now, in addition to that, what other meanings does it have? When I say an apple, it could mean one apple. That is one meaning. Second thing is I'm talking about any apple. This is not a specific apple that I'm talking about. It is a general reference that I'm giving. Okay, so general, it also shows that I'm not talking about anything specific. I'm talking about a general thing, right? Any apple. My reference is to any apple, not a specific apple. So these are three meanings that you can derive out of it. One is of specificity and non-specificity, and the other is of countability, right?
Okay.
With it is usually used when you have to show that something is unique, okay? That it is the only kind of the thing that exists in that category. So for example, if I say, like to say Ganga, right? So I have to say the Ganga is the longest river. Now, why? Because you're talking about something that is the longest, right? The longest can be only one. So it's a unique feature. So whenever you talk about something that is unique in its nature, you do not have an existence of anything of that sort otherwise, then you use the definite article the, okay? When you have to, that's one function for uniqueness. The second thing is when you want to be specific. So I went to the market and and bought a few apples, okay? The apples were sweet. So the second time when I'm talking specifically about the apples that I got from the market, right? I went to the market and bought few apples. The apples were sweet. You don't say apples were sweet. To make it grammatically correct, you will have to say the apples were sweet, to tell the reader or to tell the listener that I'm talking specifically about the apples that I got from the market. So this is the second use, to show specificity. Okay. So these are the basic two distinctions that you have you make in the usage of articles in English. But grammatically, like with respect to different usages, you can have like several categories. Like people would tell you when you use the adjective in its superlative form, it should always be preceded with the. Okay. But again, there the idea is that you're talking about a unique quality, which is why you use the. It's not because it is superlative adjective that you're using the. The reason you use is because the smallest, the longest, the tallest, whatever it is the tallest because it is unique. So it is because of the uniqueness factor that you are using the and not because it is superlative form of adjective. Okay.
Okay. For uniqueness, if I find the
just one question regarding the for uniqueness. Uniqueness, if some quality belongs to the person, can I use where? Or
are you speaking? Because I cannot hear you.
Yeah, just I am asking to here you told like unique we use